Welcome back to the Techno-Communist conversation. I'm going to talk a little bit about new developments, at least that I observed in recent days in the tech news feed, describing a particular company called Devin, a particular product, something approaching a multimodal AI agent, and going to relate that to the last conversation and earlier work, and then describe a scenario to do with 21st century China and an AI takeoff. And uh, let's first describe a little bit about Devin, which is an application. I read an article from Infoworld.com, and the subtitle says, Devin has the ability to actively collaborate with users during software development. This includes providing real-time progress updates, accepting feedback, and working together to make design choices. And the title is A New AI Assistant Threatens Software Engineering Jobs by Sandeep Budki. And this is a recurring theme, this type of title, of course, in the tech trades and in the AI news feed, or in articles of even more salacious kind, routinely written by the New York Post and other far-right news sources in the U.S., or in, even further than average right news sources, because all the news sources are essentially neoliberal in the U.S., which makes them also very far right. So let's talk a little bit about what Devin can do in this context of a tech activism and not merely a techno-communist conversation like yours and mine, but the techno-communist project itself, the building of a humane and sustainable economic system built out on highly advanced computing of the early to mid 21st century. So the techno-communist response to this reads a little bit like a press release for Devin, but relating to AI-powered collaboration of the kind that I've discussed on the show many times. If you're new to the show, I recommend that you listen to my audiobook, How to Build Communist, How to Use AI to Build Communism in Your Lifetime, because if you don't, humans will soon become extinct. And I'll link that in the comments. I also would recommend that you listen to some of the other podcasts on the subject of AI agent networks, working closely with human beings in a click-through process, including a kind of proxy hive mind. I believe this can be done in late 2024 or 2025, with each passing month. The prospect of building something that could stand not just to help solve many great challenges, but ultimately to build a governance structure of a humane and sustainable kind increases. And on a planet that is 5 years away from runaway overheating, you'd be a fool not to consider building a thing of such strength, even if you are a rightist, some variety of capitalist, or like most people in the West, in some degree of denial about the relationship to private wealth. This unveiling of Devin, which is Cognition AI's AI assistant, which has a unique multimodal element, pushing closer to AI agency, but also, of course, having a different set of a different speed of services available to the user, which is the key things of main interest there. um, there's a certain, I think, correct excitement about things like this, even as they are developed by for-profit enterprise. Ultimately, sooner rather than later, all of these things must become in the commons, must become things built by the public for the public good, particularly under the banner of people's government, which is why in the latter part of this conversation I will turn to China. But the first part of this essay looks at Devin's potential through the lens of the Techno-Communist project and these related discussions on AI-assisted digital agent networks. We will then look at some counterpoints rooted in the principles of techno-communism, outlining a vision for utilizing technology like Devin or many others in the works, or to be developed by citizen computer scientists interested in building an AI-run planned economy and activist networks. Ultimately, this is, in my view, the best path to building a humane and sustainable economic system and saving humanity from destruction, which will not occur under the present capitalistic and far-right neoliberal Western regime, which controls advanced technology almost across the board outside of a few locales today. So a little bit about this software engineering landscape as it relates to Devin and products of this kind. Our techno-communist thought emphasizes the need for a radical transformation of our economic and social systems. And so a product like Devin, with its ability to automate repetitive tasks and collaborate on complex engineering projects, aligns with this vision by potentially freeing up users, comrades, citizens of Earth of all stripes for more rewarding, creative, and in the case of conversations of this kind, strategically impactful work. This will lead to increased productivity in a Marxist sense and far faster innovation. I have said on this show many times that an AI takeoff would have easily occurred without the influence of fascistic forces. Many years ago, in the 1970s, the Salvador Allende, for example, was building a government that would have been quite similar to the, in many respects, to the cybernetic socialist governance structures described here in this work, and in the works of Paul Cockshott and others. I will share with you audiobooks of Paul Cockshott's work, which I highly recommend. The point is that the fascist West has sabotaged advanced technology. They have appropriated it in the vilest senses, and they have used it for creating baubles and trinkets, which seem to be of interest to material conditions and human well-being, but are not on any real examination. And so we must change that abomination of historical appropriation and restore this world to better things, which means working towards humane and sustainable economic systems and governance structures, which means having greater representation for citizens. But more than anything, more than decentralization or quote-unquote democracy, what this requires of us is to build something stronger than the fascist systems which currently exist, which will eclipse them in every way and make them the footnotes in history that they deserve to be. The communist and techno-communist lines of thought will obviously warn us against the dangers of bourgeois automation leading to worsening material conditions in the things like job displacement and many others well in evidence across the fascist West. So even something like Devin may eliminate lower level coding jobs, and it's crucial to always focus on a transition for displaced workers and improving sectors along the way as we move toward these revolutionary outcomes. So we should not, we would be remiss if we did not at least mention ideas like universal basic services, more useful training and retraining programs, and a shift toward, in the near term, toward an economy which is better suited to capitalize on the interaction and interplay with stronger AI agents. The Techno-Communist project would advocate overwhelmingly for open source development and ethical considerations in advanced computing at every turn. Devin present is not open to the public and is just limited to a select set of users. However, there are a lot of companies and organizations exploring multimodal AI, and many of them will come out of stealth mode or beta in the coming months. It's important, I think, for everyone to keep an eye on open source developments and all developments of this kind, and we must begin to demand the kind of collaboration and the kind of building of strong AI networks described in these works. And more than anything, prevent the proprietary appropriation by private wealth and the imperial fascist West of these most powerful tools in history. Something that I don't believe Marxists emphasize enough is that advanced computing, or whatever your concerns about the fascist capture of technology in the West, advanced computing is nevertheless the most powerful tool that has ever existed, and it can be the most powerful revolutionary transformative factor in human history, and that is what we must work for. That is what we must work for, and we must join organizations like communist organizations in your area, the activist networks. Not all of them are avowedly communist. I was listening last night to a conversation between a tech blogger of a less liberal kind, Paris Marx, and Google whistleblower Tim McDevery. And while she's not an avowed Marxist, because for the most part, the bare minimum for being able to capably do work along these lines, she's quite close, and she's doing work of a liberatory kind. So I can recommend that you work with Marxists or people who have a legitimate agenda in this general. The Techno-Communist project envisions ultimately cybernetic AI-run planned economy. As I mentioned, alluded to, this is something that was a realistic prospect in the 70s. It became an increasingly realistic project with every passing year. It was undermined by private wealth and the imperial fascistic forces of the U.S. and West, who have murdered many, many people in service to this creating this global regime of protection of private wealth at the expense of not merely human beings, but human existence itself, and the widespread destruction of the planet has been the reward for their first winning the Cold War. So we must begin to build super intelligent hybrid AI systems that can outpace them and outmaneuver them in every way. Capitalists will tend to not build things like this because they are afraid of this very potential, and because they will tend to have difficulty monetizing it in the ways that they really only pursue things to do with advanced computing if they monetizable in certain areas. So Devin, this thing with certain aspects of AI network agency is of course not a super intelligence, but it showcases the potential for AI assistants that can collaborate with humans in real time. And like Spot Press, which I mentioned in earlier shows, it's a company or organization that has potential to be used by you, by organizers, to begin to build this thing that I have described. Again, oftentimes I hear Marxists use words like adventurism to decry some project or other that's not consistent with their opinion of revolutionary work, or perhaps some not a close enough parallel to some revolutionary outcome of the past. I urge you to resist the trap, this particular oversight, because again, we have 5 years to defeat the fascist left, to build something stronger than them, and that, if you don't mind the cliche, requires you to kick outside of the fucking box. Imagine this network of AI agents along the lines of Devin or many others, but this is of interest today, each specializing in different fields, engineering, resource management, urban planning, all working alongside humans. You can begin to imagine how the previously described AI-run human-centered network would work, and it is human-centered, but requires very little effort of each individual user, more or less click-through processes, yes-or-no questions, answering few emails here and there throughout the day. This would be your civic duty under this techno-communist outcome, this future, which is, in my view, the only future wherein human beings continue to exist without multi-billion person loss of life. And this kind of network could revolutionize problem solving across various sectors. You can imagine Devin-like AI agents collaborating with scientists to accelerate clean energy research, or working with urban planners to design things in real time in the urban environment. All things should focus on either sustainability or material conditions, and short of revolutionary projects, those should be the things that we try to focus on. Revolutionary projects being direct action to remove from power the fascists who are killing the planet, most notably the U.S. fascist regime. Leveraging advanced computing to empower humans to solve societal challenges is increasingly a real prospect to these passing months, and that's why I encourage you to read my audio book that I mentioned, How to Use AI to Build Communism. Subscribe to that channel. Reach out to me if you want to continue this conversation. The Techno-Communist Conversation's counterpoint relating to open source AI for collective action. While AI agents of a multimodal variety present exciting possibilities, the proprietary nature of these, of course, and their almost uniform relationships to the military-industrial complex, poisoning of tech sectors. Tech may as well be short for techno-fascism, as far as the U.S. and Western powers are concerned. So this proprietary nature, this private wealth capture in every sector, but particularly in this sector, for the purpose of a conversation, should set off alarm bells in your head if it doesn't already. I would encourage you again to read the works of not just cybernetics thinkers of interest like Paul Kopchak, or perhaps myself, but read the works of Marx and Engels. Certainly go through as many of the works of Comrade Lenin if you have time to read. All of those are available in audiobook form. You put them on while you're doing something else. Read the works of Comrade Mao, Comrade Stalin. There's dozens and dozens of other authors I can recommend on dozens and dozens of topics related to revolutionary action and central planning. So please feel free to ask me. We must, as Marxists, remember that open source is an important area. It's not discussed by Marxists in my experience very much, but advocating for open source advanced computing development is very important in this pivotal time when you're looking at an AI takeoff that is currently micromanaged by techno-fascists, leading to a hell world scenario where militaristic AI tech companies are planning, using pushing up the strong AI to plan wars. That's occurring in Palestine right now. Palantir, other companies who have this relationship with the Pentagon are using AI in this way. They're effectively doing the bizarre world version of what I've suggested, using strong AI to outmaneuver the competition, but in this case, it's only serving mass death and human misery. Similarly, in Palestine, you have literal killer robots being employed by some of these same companies or other companies that have this relationship with the ecocidal arch criminal and hellacious force, the United States military-industrial complex, and other fascistic military-industrial complexes. So we must push instead for the techno-communist outcome, which requires the fight for the abolition of private wealth and the commons. We must replace it with commons, collective ownership, and representative control over all sectors, starting with the most powerful tools. This, and only this, will mitigate the risk of advanced computing, so-called artificial general intelligence, becoming the exclusive tool for private wealth and techno-fascistic social control, an outcome which is already leading to unsustainable levels of inequality and increasingly fractious relationships. When you have so-called AI thinkers, people like Ms. Bostrom and a whole host of people along these lines, almost every tech bobblehead, talking about the risks of AI. They're not talking about an existential risk to you. They're talking about an existential risk to Western fascism, the thing that's killing the planet, the thing which should be at risk. Do not forget that. Global collaboration is then, of course, the option that stands in defiance of hypernationalist forces. Open source development can and must transcend geographical boundaries, encouraging international collaboration on AI research and development. This can foster sharing and ensure that all citizens of Earth benefit from these advancements, aligning with the Techno-Communist project call for global cooperation. The issue of algorithmic bias and justice in these areas is something that I'm listening to Devin talk about. I wasn't blown away by these two people, but definitely not the most evil people. Certainly not techno-fascists, which almost all tech people are. But again, not communists. Even if you are not writing tech manifestos about cybernetic socialism, if you accept that fascistic Western forces are killing the planet and must be stopped, and you are willing to stand for a people's government, even if you haven't read all the works of communists, Marx, and Engels, and Lenin, even if you are not a Sovietologist or things along these lines, you are still on the right path, we're still miles ahead of people who are considered thinkers in this area, like Mark Andreessen or Brett Weinstein, two so-called AI power players who have so much arch conservative baggage that their work is essentially rendered meaningless, and history will prove this to be true. Reducing the risk of bias even today in training data will ensure that advanced computing is utilized fairly and ethically, and there should be a focus on AI agent networks as well as a criticism of tools along these lines being developed outside of our tech activist circles. Building this cybernetic socialist future by harnessing the power of open source advanced computing and building a network of collaborative AI agents, we can create a future aligned with the Techno-Communist project vision. Here is what a roadmap along these lines might look like. Establishing an international consortium of socialism-minded scientists, engineers, and thinkers to develop this super intelligent hybrid artificial general intelligence network with the mind to building the cybernetic socialist planned economy. And the need for open source AI in this is paramount, and the use of this open source AI would prioritize human well-being and planetary sustainability. These are non-negotiable things, in my view. If you consider yourself a revolution-minded person, if you are not thinking or speaking in terms of this most powerful tool in human history, advanced computing, I friend, you are a fool. You are a historical recreationist living in the past and not considering the landscape of the 21st century. Making more representative, or so-called democratizing, Devin like agents. We must develop open source AI frameworks similar to Devin that cater to various disciplines. This will foster a network of collaborative AI assistants working alongside humans to solve diverse societal challenges. To utilize these AI agents as sidekicks, they can also provide educational objectives for all, better realization of people's life goals, careers, and such, which will hasten the transition to the cybernetic planned economy, as described to some degree in the last conversation. The implementation of universal basic services in every nation, starting in yours. You must fight for housing authority, public health service, jobs programs. You must demand these things every moment of every day. Implementing things, even in some cases, basic income, but generally probably not. But we can ensure that citizens have financial security during and after the transition to a new economic model. There's often discussions of what will be the moment where we believe so-called AI to be artificially generally intelligent. And my benchmark, personally, will be when there are not a billion people on this planet who are born, never have food or water they need, and die a short number of years later, when there are not unhoused people on this planet, when everyone on Earth has what they need and has a sustainable future. Then and only then will I believe that such a thing as intelligence exists on this planet, not a moment before. We can continue to launch educational and activist initiatives to equip people with the skills necessary to thrive in a future powered by this novel approach to AI collaboration that I have outlined at great length on this program. The emergence of AI agents like Devin or others I believe we must continue to explore open source and things that might appear to be business services, but we can use them to other ends. These hold immense potential for creating an equitable and ultimately sustainable future before it's too late. The future depends particularly, among other things, on harnessing advanced computing for the collective good through open source development, serious planning and consideration, the broadest sense, and the global collaboration. All of this must operate toward the central plan and objectives and activist intermediaries to those ends. By embracing the principles of techno-communism and building a network of AI assistants, we can work together to co-create a world where humans and AI partner to address the things that threaten to doom humanity in the decades to come. Well, I said I was going to talk a little bit about China, so now I will describe the tale of humane, an AI agent network born out of activist groups like the one that I've described. This possibility of Chinese AI takeoff is, I think, stronger for the purposes of what we've discussed than perhaps in other places, because there are literally hundreds of millions of young people in China who have a high level of programming, computer skills, and AI literacy, and who are more interested in these things than Westerners, because they tend to have a far richer understanding of the need for a humane and sustainable economic system. So we could begin to see the open source and AI agent networks like those described in this and others in the techno-communism conversation, and in the millions that would allow people to tackle local challenges. I talked about the possibility of using artificial general intelligence to, say, solve a problem like that occurring in Mexico City, or that, in better examples, other coastal cities that face water shortages to take on novel engineering designs for desalination plants or other solutions to a lack of water in those cities, which is likely to inflict as much as half of the world's population in perhaps as little as 15 years. We can again use collaboration to fast-track not just the design, but the building of a project that in other circumstances might seem far-fetched, but with this kind of network, I think they would be entirely more plausible. So this bottom-up approach, driven by a collective desire for a better future, can completely disrupt the current economic models of the fascist West, outpace them, and eclipse them, make them irrelevant by becoming the far greater force. This is what we must do. This concept of Chinese AI takeoff as citizen-centered in the way that I described would certainly send shockwaves through the fascist West and the so-called rules-based order. The U.S. and the West would view this with suspicion and try to attack it in the way they would attack all citizen initiatives and development. They have killed 40 million people. The United States alone, as the imperial fascist superpower, has killed 40 million people in living memory, just in anti-communist hot wars, like those that occurred in your lifetime, probably Iraq, which I characterize it in this way, even though it was not ostensibly anti-communist, but more anti-communist campaigns like those in Vietnam, And so the number of deaths that are attributed to the United States is almost incalculable. They will, and the amount of sabotage that's occurred beyond that, even more so. But even in China, perhaps establishment supporters of the current socialism of Chinese characteristics, more market-oriented elites, might take similar action, probably not hot war, more overt sabotage, but you can expect things along those lines that would occur to anyone who's working on techno-communist projects that begins to become viable. But that is, there is no other choice. The alternative is extinction. What sort of moral coward are you if you would let the planet go extinct so that you can live an additional 5 years? Something like this. The most ridiculous person, only the most ridiculous person would make this choice. And yet that is the choice of almost every technologist that I've seen, and almost every Western so-called liberal. The success of this Chinese AI takeoff could then have ripple effects of a massive kind around the world, and this requires open source frameworks, and the user base that would continue to grow, and this would become a catalyst for problem solving of various kinds in urban locales in nations around the world. And this representative approach to hybrid superintelligence would put an end to elitism and the problems like I've described of people living in abject poverty, despite a world that has more resources at its disposal than ever before. This Chinese AI takeoff narrative should serve as a thought experiment, highlighting the potential for AI agents and collaborative networks. Those two ideas go hand in hand on this show, generally, to disrupt the status quo. The Techno-Communist project envisions ultimately more decentralized. It's necessary to build this thing outside of the establishment and bring in comrades and world citizens of every stripe. So it's necessary to make this a decentralized project, but the decentralization really is not the end. You should not aver state socialism or sophisticated institutions generally. This is the absurdity of anarchist thought. But because of this 5-year time frame, I am inclined to think that the decentralized approach is the best way to a super intelligent force that could ultimately be perhaps the one thing that has a chance of saving humanity from, if not extinction, a multi-billion person loss of life, which constitutes effectively a racist genocide against the global south. The global south will be the ones who will have people die in the billions for the sins of northern consumerists, for the sins of the West and their luxury products that they have demanded in spite of the fact that it is killing the planet. That is why we are going to do these things. There's not a magic bullet. Superintelligence itself is not a magic bullet that will find ways to solve these problems of climate change in that time frame. What we must do is effectively abolish petroleum products, except in the cases where that would cause supply chain collapse and such. But we can get rid of virtually 95% of this environmental impact tomorrow. Similarly, we must legislate the abolition of livestock systems, replacing those products with these facsimiles that taste the same but have a tiny fraction of the environmental impact. Again, this could be 95% of livestock systems and animal products to be removed tomorrow. If these two things were done, we would have effectively broken the window of this car that we're trapped in. Imagine that you are in the parking lot of the local grocery store and you see a dog on a 100-degree afternoon, and it's panting and in clear distress. You break the window so that the dog will not die. That is what we must do for ourselves. And if we do that within this 5-year time frame, we will still have adverse effects. But what we will not have is the genocide of billions or the extinction of all human beings. So one thing is clear. Advanced computing is the most powerful tool in history, combined with collective organizing and with political will for a better future, have the potential to completely reshape our world order and will allow us to reform our governance if we are willing to set aside our peccadillos and reevaluate our views and needs as we can see and create a humane and sustainable economic order.